Now knows Sean Drenth's body was found near his patrol car with both his passenger side door open and his driver's side door open. All three of his guns were in different places. When initial reports came in, they thought this was a suicide, but now detectives aren't so sure.
There is information in this case to suggest homicide. There is information in this case to suggest suicide.
Even early this week, homicide detectives say they received tips in the case of Sergeant Sean Drenth. But determining whether his mysterious shooting death was a homicide or a suicide may never be known.
At this point, what it's demonstrated that either possibility, it could happen.
Detectives told us they conducted 115 DNA tests with no matches yet to any critical DNA evidence found at the scene. But investigators are certain someone else was in the area with Sean Drenth, either before or after he died.
So our objective is to identify that person, find out why they were in the scene, and did they have anything to do with Sergeant Drenth's death.
Even with scene reenactments, the positions of Drenth's weapons are still baffling. The gun that killed him, his shotgun, was on his chest, his duty weapon tossed over a fence, and his secondary handgun near his body with indications someone fired at least one round. Investigators wouldn't say whether fingerprints other than Drenth's were on the weapons.
There's still much more analysis that we can do.
Now, investigators would not tell us what other specific evidence they have that makes them so sure that someone else was in that secluded area with Sean Drenth from the time that he entered that area to 24 minutes later when he was found dead by a Capitol police officer at 10:55 that night. They also said after doing some research they have no evidence that he was in the mindset of wanting to kill himself, and they have no knowledge that he had any knowledge. He was about to be one of 5 people indicted in an attorney general's investigation in which he was accused of accepting extra money for off-duty security work that he never completed, and they have no information that any of the other officers that were indicted in that situation were in any way involved. Live in Phoenix, I'm investigator Lori Jane Gleha, ABC 15 News.
Lori Jane, thank you very much for that. And our team coverage continues now with ABC 15's Christina Boomer. She's joined by several investigative producers as they go through these documents. And Christina, you've been finding one name that keeps coming up.
Absolutely. And when you look around and you look at what we're dealing with, just look at all these pages and pages and documents of information that we're all pouring through, it does catch your eye when one particular name keeps standing out, especially when it's the name of somebody who was not part of the Phoenix Police Department at the time of this incident. That name, George Contreras. Now, if that rings a bell, and we have some video, so maybe if you see him, it might trigger your memory. He was one of the former police officers indicted on fraud and theft charges. It was him along with 3 active Phoenix police officers. They were accused of taking money for hours they didn't work at these off-duty security gigs. Well, we do know Contreras and Drenth were friends. They played in a band together, and also that Drenth was part of that investigation at the time that he was found shot to death. Now, his name comes up in several locations. At one point, there's a Phoenix Police Department employee that says just 1/2 hour after the incident, so a half hour after he is found, that Contreras sent a text message saying that Drenth committed suicide. Now, you know that. Now, know this. The wife didn't even know that Drenth was dead until 2 hours later. Speaking of the wife, she brings up Contreras several points. She wasn't very happy with some comments that he made on Facebook. One quote, Sean Drenth played guitar in heaven. She said that Contreras wrote that on Facebook, and it offended her because she thought that perhaps he was using her husband's death to promote his guitar business. So as we're kind of tracking down all these different mentions of Contreras, which becomes interesting since the 2 of them are part of that off-duty work scheme, fraud scheme. Corey Rangel, a reporter, is out in the newsroom right now, and he's pouring through audio tapes. We have several of them that we got in, and a lot of this is officers speaking to one another. So what we did is we took a few bits so you can get a sense of what officers were saying that very evening. Take a listen.
No response on the radio. His other units had said that he wasn't answering his phone at that time.
There is an officer down. They believe it might be a suicide. As far as they know, they do not have any suspects out, and information is still coming.
Whether it was at the hands of his own or somebody else, they don't know yet. They're still trying to figure it out.
That language, whether it was at the hands of their own. So interesting to hear how they're speculating on the night that he is found, and also interesting to note that all these months later they still haven't figured it out. Now, we are also learning that the FBI was called in to review some cell phone records. In my hand right now, evidence that, take a look at the name right there. We're just talking about him, weren't we? The FBI looking at the cell phone record for George Contreras. So we're going to continue to track this down, bring you everything else we can find at ABC 15 at 10.